out there. Welcome to the Hangout, the Reef Hangout. We have Jim, Telegram on IG. I have actually seen Jim way back in the Reef Beef days, believe it or not, Jim. I didn't mention that to you before, but I do have under clothing on today. And so I just go ahead and start with that just to have a little fun. Yeah, so I've been watching Jim for years now, and I guess trolling is what they say now. I don't know if it's
Trolling's
just kind
good.
of just looking from afar and enjoying what I see. And so I just wanted to welcome Jim to the show and just say, I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. I know that your schedule might be a little bit more relaxed now, but nevertheless, you have family, you have a Reef, and you do have friends and so forth. So I know that time is is at a premium for most. So I appreciate that this time that you're spending here on the channel. I know the community probably appreciates it as well. So
50-50. I'm polarizing, so we'll just stick with that.
Well, yeah, I do, and that's exactly. I think that's why. Sorry, I just kicked my own tripod here. That's one of the reasons I wanted to open up with today is the state of the hobby,
Yeah.
the state of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see it currently? And look, you don't have to have filters here. There's no sponsorships here. There's nothing.
Yeah.
No one's tethered. I told you before, it's a dude and a cell phone, and that's pretty much it. And so, and where do you see the future headed?
Man, I would love for the hobby to take back the hobby. From first, I'm not sponsored. I recently had a manufacturer send me a light to test to untethered. I was able to say whatever I want without checking with them first, and that is what I expect. Um, but to your question, take back the hobby. Like the hobbyists need to own this hobby instead of the corporate entities defining what we should expect from the hobby. It's gotten so damn expensive. Maybe it was always expensive. It is, it's a luxury hobby. You have to have some extra income to be able to pull this thing off to some extent, but it can bring you joy. It brings you joy. It brings me joy. We were talking before the show about um, what Perry really enjoys and how you like getting outside and doing gardening. And I've absolutely done the same. My mother instilled that in me, which I mentioned, but it's that kind of thing, right? The hobby can be super chill, and the hobby can be, if you want it to be, inexpensive enough to enjoy.
I have to agree with that because I'm in no real financial state to be reefing, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But here's what I will say. When we talk about the hobby and taking the hobby back, there was an old saying that I learned 20 years ago, literally first year in, and it was, Perry, pay it forward. Pay it forward.
Yeah.
And through the virtue of paying it forward, I have been fortunate enough, and I've been on both ends, right? Paying it and receiving. And it's always rolling that way as if we build that and instill that within, like, first and foremost, the local community, right?
Yep.
Identifying who's in your community first and foremost, and then from there, creating that communication. I mean, the whole virtue or nature, rather, I guess, of the reason I created the Reef Hangout was more just to do what we're doing here. Just catch up.
Yeah.
What's going on? How are you doing this Friday? Like, how's your reef? What's the status? We are at a time where there are other things I think that do need to be discussed, and I think that the elephant is in the room, and I'm not the kind of guy that's going to continue or choose to look past it. I would rather
Mhm.
address it. And, instead of putting a Band-Aid, let's just rip it off. And like the hobby is in a state where more people that are pulling levers on pricing, on awareness are the ones that aren't even carrying a reef tank in their home,
Yep.
right?
Agreed.
They're not even reefing. They may or may not have reefed. They may
Hmm.
or may not currently reef. That to me, I kind of lose a little bit of credibility for that type of situation. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at with it. I like to really see what a reef keeper is thinking and really try to tap into, what can we do to provide our own solutions, like taking the hobby back. So if you
Yeah,
want to
yeah, yeah.
expand, man, go for it.
First, let me address Rob. I haven't taken a sip yet, but in the water is the water bottle's water. That one is not. So, um, data, and data is like a dirty word. And let me see if I can work my way through this thought.
Do
Uh,
you have an acronym for that, by the way?
no, I would
I'll
like
get you
to.
one. I'll get you one. I'll shoot it over to you.
Okay.
Data. Okay, so data. Let's go.
Um, if if I'm able to make a decision, like I just saw one time before I jumped on this stream, I saw a comment on Reef to Reef in a thread that I'm lightly following only because I was tagged. I don't like hanging out over there. Totally different story. But I saw this comment that said this particular brand light offers the best par and spectrum for the dollar. Data doesn't support that opinion. Like I have the light right here. Like it just showed up today. And I was just doing spectrum measurements on that light today. And what that person, and I don't know who that person is. I don't know their involvement in the hobby. I don't know their involvement with industry. They may just be a fan of what they bought. They may just be justifying the money that they paid. But I know that statement to be false because of data. Now, data doesn't capture everything related to lighting. Data doesn't capture everything related to pump. Data doesn't capture everything related to equipment in general. But data can be like the baseline where we start. So we can start the discussion with um, price, spectrum, spread, average par over a given area. And there's your foundation. And then from there, you can decide who you want to be as a consumer. Do you want to be a conscientious consumer who is price aware? Do you want to be a show off consumer? Do you want to be a follower of trends consumer? Do you just want to light your damn tank? And if so, start with data.
Mhm.
Thoughts?
So I have to agree 100%. I mean, you can't argue it. That's the most beautiful thing about it. It's really an inarguable subject. If you're doing the testing and you're doing the testing side by side in the same environment and everything is
Yep.
equal,
Yep.
the data is going to prove what the data proves. Sorry about. I think what we're talking about here is ego and feelings versus data. And here's what I would say. The number one reason I reached out to you was because I was on one of your posts
Hmm.
and I happened to like what you said because you are authentic and it was refreshing. Okay. I could understand if someone was frustrated with that and came to your and messaged right there, and that's where it began. I was
Yep.
approached in my personal space. And it wasn't, "Hey, how are you? My name is this." It was a something that it really didn't work well with me. And so I said, "You know what? There's a multitude of ways to handle this." So I just ignored it. And that same person has come onto a live as well
Hmm.
and interrupted. And it's interference. And it's like, why? Why? Why?
What drove that person interfering?
That that's me agreeing with
Huh.
something you said. So
I mean, that happens.
Yeah, but it was the first for me in all fairness.
Okay.
And so with me,
Wow.
like I'm kind of a real peace driven individual. So when I get
Yeah.
when somebody push steps into that place with me, I go from I do the opposite. I do the 180 thing. And and I'm not trying to I didn't do anything irrational, but hey, I mean I was frustrated like why?
Yep.
What is the nature of this? And so then I started connecting the dots, right? And I started realizing, okay, now I get it. Now I see what's going on here. And it's a part of the hobby. If you go and look at my community page, I went and made some statements about who I will align with and who I will not align with, what I align with, what I won't align with. That's the way I responded, as
Okay.
opposed to making it a personal thing. And I won't personalize this by mentioning
Hmm.
names. It's not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But what I will say is I chose, I have my own format that I've created, a community that we have created together, me and the people that are here. And, there's going to be some ways that we go about things, and
Yep.
we're not going to send these kind of messages of hate, frustration. We don't, attacks. No, I'm not with that stuff. And
Yeah.
if companies are aligning with this, and this is the place where they are at, it tells you where the economy is at, and it won't be very long before the money dries up.
Sure. I totally agree. That money will dry
It's
up.
happened to the surfing
It's
industry. It happened to the
it is.
surfing
Yeah.
industry, and they now, if they want to be on tour, they have to pay for their own flight. This the corporate. They're pulling the money back, and it's going to happen. It's
It's
going to
not
happen.
self-supporting.
It's not.
It can't.
It's
It
not an
can't support
endeavor.
itself.
It's
Yeah.
not a virtuous endeavor. It's not a hobby driven endeavor. It's a
Interesting.
maniacal endeavor, and it's not something that I don't align with. And so I have no problem calling that stuff out because it
Mhm.
does not benefit humanity or the hobby. It's irresponsible, and it's all ego. And so that's what led me. I sought you, and I said, I would love for you to come on. I didn't go and broadcast what we were even going to talk about. You want to know
Yep.
why? Because I don't want it to become off scripted. I would rather it be
Yeah.
authentic, like your
Yeah.
comment. That's why I was there. I was there because what you said was refreshing and needed to be said.
I
Bravo for
appreciate that.
having the guts to say it.
I think that's so. See, that bothers me actually, the guts part, because everybody should have the freedom to be able to express in um a respectful way what they have to say. You can Now respect can be broad for me because um I feel comfortable responding to Jaguar's question, why do people come after me for lighting bacteria data? I'm made fun of. Like there's jest, there's poking, there's I was just watching a video today that Rob is here. He shared with me where I was being made fun of for caring about the photosynthetic aspect of lighting, right? Um, so I'm comfortable responding in that space. It I find it enjoyable, maybe inappropriately enjoyable, but it does give me something to do, right? I get to be a respectful jerk, if that makes sense. So I'll create a response video just because it's fun for me, and it'll hurt feelings, and then posts will be made, and but I consider that balance in a way, similar to how when I'm reviewing gear, I'll challenge other reviewers saying, I disagree. I'm comfortable disagreeing. I think it's a balance. There are any number of sponsored or wannabe sponsored people out there who are willing to just peddle anything uh, for ego, for their own benefit financially, for whatever reason, whatever is driving them. And that's cool. If they want to be driven that way, that's fine. But there's also people like me who is absolutely comfortable challenging those norms, those perspectives,
Well, in the
and
narrative
I
too.
have fun with it.
And and again, it's refreshing. I mean, it's a your interpretation, it's your personality, it's all of that stuff, and
Yeah,
that's the way you are able to express yourself, and I think that's clean, that's good. um I'm talking about, something a little bit different, when I'm talking about some of the things that I've seen over the
yep,
years. I have seen
okay,
some things that, that have been, yeah, just it used to be Radeon G4 Bro Club, back in 2018, that era. And if you were one of those dudes, and you didn't have one of those lights, you just weren't cool,
I
and
have
that's just the way
two.
it was.
Does that make me cool?
You're totally cool, and I bet you they're probably still as effective because they were actually a pretty darn good light, from my understanding. I've never used
They
one.
were a good light. One jumped in the tank, it's almost effective. The other ones, I mean, they're both in the garage. They're lights I don't use anymore. But, and I totally fell into that, "This is the gear you gotta have," and it really was lighting at the time. I didn't fall into the pumps thing a little bit, right? MB10s, I've had a couple of those. But I hear you. Like, there is a if you wanna be cool, this is the gear you gotta have.
I think, if we go way back in time, to me, you had to be clever as far as flow was concerned. We didn't have a lot of options. Back in the day. I remember when Tunesies just hit the market, the newer,
Mhm.
the new Tunesy, smaller pumps and the nano streams, and before that, think it was, what was it? What was those block ones? Do you remember those? Oh my God, I can't remember. They were
No,
a hell of a
I've been
pump,
Jabo. I've been right from
but
crappy Jabo to awesome Jabo.
yeah, I was a
That's all I've run.
Tunesy. I like the tunesies, but I always felt like you had to be creative. Back in the day, you didn't have the pulsing, you didn't have all these things, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you had to really take your time and sit there with the tank, observe, and really look at the way the flows exchange, interacted, and then try to create that perfect flow. And so to date, I get a lot of comments like, "How are you creating this crazy wave?" I'm like, "Oh, it's easy. I just put a little pump down there, I pulse it. It's a Jabo pump, and that's it. It does
Yeah.
the rest. I dial it in, and boom, I create the wave. But
Yeah.
I had to position my aquascape in such a manner because the pump is oversized for the size of the tank. So if I behind the scape, there's no sand because it's all blown
Mhm.
away. But in
Yeah.
front, it doesn't affect it, right? So I had to get creative, and I think that's what I really enjoyed about the hobby is the DIY aspects back in the day. Some of the you had to think on your feet. You didn't have all these different types of tests available, so you had to use glass algae as a phosphate determinant. There's all these little things, these clever little things that we learned along the way to sort of find that sweet spot. And so because of the observation, I just never really found a reason to come off T5s. I mean, I
Mm.
still run them. We can get into lighting, and we will, but I never really found much of a reason to come off of them. I've had great success with Acropore keeping under T5. So an SB Reef bar going down the front. That's how old
Yeah, yeah,
school I
yeah.
am, and six
Yep.
T5 bolts, and
Yep.
boom, grow anything you want. The ATI unit
It
is
works.
10 years old, and I
Mhm.
suspect it'll probably be another 10 years before it's ready to shit on me. And so, so that's where we stand with it. That's really my history. It's not even really that rich. I mean, bacteria and stuff. Yeah, we definitely can get into all that because I've been a carbon bacteria dosing zeovit, all that
Mhm.
aquaforest, all that stuff over the years. And I know you did an analysis on bacteria, so I'm definitely wanting to get into that with you. But I mean, that's really my history. There's nothing really great to it. Acroporas to me just always did well enough under T5s that I just never. I've tried a reef breeders unit, and it seems to be pretty okay. But I find myself going back to T5s.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I
that's where
was
I'm at.
never well, I mean, I have T5 somewhere. I have to assume it's in storage. I'm not sure where it is. And I tried it. I was compact fluorescent first
Hmm.
over, it was a 45-gallon cube that
Was
was
this your first
given to
reef, Jim?
me. That's my first reef tank.
What can you give me a
So
time
that
frame,
was
like?
Yeah, it's like 13 years. I'm a
Oh
little
wow.
over
Okay.
13 years into this. So I worked with a guy who he was young. I hired him to be my CAD guy to support my engineering department. He was reefing, and he and I shared an office, and he's like, "Can I bring in a tank?" And I was in a detached building from the main building, so I felt comfortable doing this. I'm like, "Hell yeah, bring it in." And he had a small tank with a Kessel. And I'm like, "Teach me, right? Tell me what you're doing. Tell me what matters." And then because I am the way I am, some things I listened to, some things I didn't, all things I should have listened to, and I eventually got there on my own. But I think that's part of the learning.
Mhm.
And he gave me a tank. It was just in his house somewhere. It used to be a freshwater tank. I set it up with a hang on the back overflow with one of those diaphragm pumps, maintaining siphon. Got creative
Uh-huh.
with that. That turned into oh Jesus, that turned into a tank on the other side of the wall, which was a 40 breeder that Moki, the inappropriate reefer, bought me. And I had those two systems tied together. Moki did a video on that setup, and if I look back on it now, because I've completely simplified most everything I do in reefing, but if I look back on that video now, it's crazy. Like I I I don't know why I reefed that way, other than it was cool to learn and to play with all that stuff. So very complicated, unnecessarily complicated, but water would pump into that 40 through the wall. It would gravity feed down to the sump. Started with a canister, and I'd probably still be running a canister on that thing had it not leaked. But just a really cool, from nothing, with a roller filter right on that first tank with the
Uh-huh.
compact
Like a
fluorescence.
bio wheel type thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally, to where I am now, right? Which is just an IM Innovative Marine 100 EXT with another IM 20 on the one floor up, and then a little mangrove tank right here in this room. But which I'll have to move because this room gets too warm. If I put fish in there, then I'll have to take them downstairs because I can't have anything up here. It just gets too hot in this room. But I think going from simple to unnecessarily complicated, and back to simple, has been a really enjoyable journey. And I used to try to collect and grow frags, and I sold them cheap. I got a call once that I was irritating people, that I was selling frags for too cheap. So then I stopped selling, and then I just started giving them away, because then that felt a little better. Um, I mean, I'll still do that. Like, it's time for me to change up the tank a little bit because some of the things are getting a little big, which was always the challenge in the 45. Things get big, trim them down, give them away, that kind of thing. Um, but I really appreciate uh, cool people who come. Like, I'll put free frags out here in a cooler, and I'll say, "You don't have to give me anything. Don't give me any money. You don't have to give me anything. If you want to bring something and leave it in the cooler for me, whether it's an anemone or a coral or a steak or booze or whatever the hell you want to leave me, or leave me nothing, I don't care." And I've received all of those. So I think, I mean, that's the way I enjoy sharing. I enjoy now a simple process, and I don't buy corals online just because I really don't have the space, but I also like finding locals that have cool things and going that direction.
Yeah, that's and that's that pay it forward thing, man. I mean, it
Yeah,
gets
yeah,
right back to where I think the hobby, instead of the company, where we're at, like a
yeah. Mhm.
hobby, um, is something we most definitely need to bring back. And we definitely have to work together as a community. Really, if we want to see those changes happen, we've got to make that happen ourselves, right? I mean, that's
Yeah, I
that's
agree.
really what it boils down to. And I appreciate what you're doing with the work, because it is the data, And it's like, so is that an engineering background? I'm assuming, like,
I was in the Air Force for 20 years, 16 days. I was an aircraft electrician for that entire period until I moved up into squadron leadership, where that was so boring because I like hands on. Um,
uh-huh.
I've always been technical. There were things I was doing before I went in the military that um, right, proved my love of DIY and technical. I have a business degree from Embry-Riddle, um,
Oh
down
shit.
your way in Daytona. Yeah.
I was born
So
and raised in Daytona.
yeah, right on. So I don't have an engineering degree, but I've been in engineering roles for effectively my whole, other than McDonald's, my whole professional career. So like I lead a engineering department for the next 45 days. So
So that's your bag. That's where your zen is, if you will. Like that's where you find your comfort.
I dig it.
And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and that's super cool. I mean, I'm like that, but I'm like on more on the bacteria, right? On the
Mhm.
biological type side. I'm fascinated by the smaller things in life, and what that brings, and like studying the mycelia network and I'm sure you're very aware of what that is, and the fungal network, and the communication in the fungal network, and the rhizosphere, and the root sharing, and the exudates, and the communication system. It just absolutely just blows my mind. And I thought, I'll bet you the reef microbiome isn't too far off. And so I
It
kind of went on a
probably
dive on
isn't,
that.
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's everything communicates, and you just need to understand, or at least try to care a little bit, right? And that's universally, right? Everything communicates. It really doesn't. I think we underestimate everything around us because a phage is not going to jump on Instagram and tell us what we need to know about being a phage, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
All of the whatever's in these models of bacteria, um, man, whatever. You know, it gets complicated when back to the data when you start sharing what's behind the curtain.
Well, like, look, another reason that prompted me to want to reach out to you is we're having this curtain, this veil, if you will, is being lifted not only on the hobby, but this is being lifted in general. And so,
Mm.
those who are thinking, down the road are aligning, are really ahead of the game. That old school mentality, I don't know where that's going to land in the future, but this is where I believe life is going, getting things back local. I mean,
Yeah.
for example, like,
Mm.
I've been brainstorming the idea in my local community. How do we get more people thinking about, autonomous thinking,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
working together as a community? How can, if I just look at my own one town, there's enough property in this little town to feed the entire town.
Hmm.
But so why am
Interesting.
I going to this place? Or, I used to work in the restaurant business, and I'd be cutting strawberries, right? And
Yeah.
and I'd be
Yeah.
and I'd be sitting here going, I'm in Florida, Plant City's right down the road, and
Yep.
here are my California strawberries because I work for a corporation, right?
Driscoll's.
There you go. Boom.
Yep.
And Taylor Farms, right? And so the
Yeah. Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
And so it's mass produced, and it's for
It
for less.
is.
And I don't think our health, and I don't think our vitality is considered. I think it's just a matter of production. And
And
so,
it's a production of a thing that looks like a strawberry that doesn't necessarily taste like one, right?
right, yeah. If you
Yeah.
if you eat Plant City strawberries, then yeah, you just go, okay, like, go to the strawberry festival, get your fill on strawberries, and you'll probably rethink it. But or just, what, grow your own. Like,
Yep.
grow your own. If,
Yeah.
I always say, like, if you want to bake bread, you could buy a loaf of bread, and you could buy the nicest loaf of bread, but I guarantee you the shittiest loaf of bread you create is going to still taste better. right? So you
And you'll
just
have ownership of it, right? Does it taste better because you did it, or does it taste better because it
yeah,
tastes better? Does it matter?
yeah, lying to oneself, right?
Back to your thinking point. Is it is it a lack of thinking, or is it, or both? Is it a lack of critical thinking? Because what I'm seeing is, and maybe it's always this way. People just want to be told what to do. They don't want to have to think. They want to plop some water in a tank, and they want to follow somebody's directions regardless of if the person providing those directions are if they're just regurgitating someone else's information. Where I was talking with somebody yesterday, somebody I respect, on the phone yesterday. It's this lack of critical thinking. People, I don't want to say it that way. I think there is an opportunity for people to put a little more effort into it, to learn on their own,
Mhm.
than just follow the directions. Because I mean, you can bake that bread, you can follow the recipe, or do you want to, you right, jump the script a little bit and turn it into something of your own, or learn why that bread works the way it works? I don't know. That seems a little. That's not the right story I'm trying to say. What I'm
No,
what
no,
I'm suggesting
it's relative.
is learn, right? Is don't learn by repetition. Don't learn by somebody just telling you what to do and then that's registered in your head. Learn
Mhm.
by learning.
Mhm.
Learn by understanding. And you got to
I've
think to do that. And
I've had some really odd things happen in meditation that I cannot explain, and some
Hmm,
answers, information that has never been any information I've studied come out of nowhere. And
sure.
some is worth mentioning, some isn't. But like I believe that sometimes if we observe, we take the time to watch, right? Just sit outside, watch the way
Yeah.
ants move, watch the way the leaves
Yep.
are blowing on the trees, watch the way the ants are moving, watch the way the birds are doing their thing, the squirrels, the way the plants are coming up in the spring, the way things
Hmm.
are dying off in the winter, and analyze this and think about this, and like back to critical thinking. Nobody taught me
Yeah.
permaculture. I did go and look at the podcasts and try to do my best. But you know how I learned the best, Jim?
Hmm.
Screwing up.
Failing. Yeah. Failing is the best teacher.
You know,
Absolutely.
I realized that tropical fruit trees shouldn't be on north facing side of the property, regardless of lighting. Boom. Stone
Why?
fruits.
How come?
Because I lost them. you know, they're dead. They're
All right.
dead.
They don't like it over there?
No, no, we've caught some in Central Florida. We caught some different type of weather this year.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, and it really devastated agriculture here in the state. So yeah, I mean it's a rebuilding for most. For me, I had just started a couple years back. It's my third season, so I didn't really have much going on to lose. So it
Yeah, okay.
wasn't that big of a deal. But yeah, I mean it's all good, man. I mean it's a lesson learned, and I think the lesson learning is through observation and through mistake making. And yes, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to choose the wrong equipment. That's how I started this
Sure.
thing. Did I get the wrong right? How many lights did I buy till I got the right
Sure.
one? Think about it. Back in
But
the day.
right is for you, right? That right is you.
Correct.
That best is yours.
Right.
And that
Exactly.
one's difficult for some people to handle.
Yeah, I try to do that more or less these days. I try to think about like how I say things, because it can come, if I try to be cognizant, like, am I phrasing this a way that makes it seem like I'm marketing here, because I'm
Yeah.
not,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so I could go on to tell you about T5s and how I feel they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, but they're the greatest thing since sliced bread to me. They're
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
I feel is the best light for me, for my purpose,
Yep.
for my environment, for my micro environment. I've jumped into that with Alan Vo about climates and microclimates. I mean, we can have 3 tanks in our home, and we can have 3 different climates within 3 different settings of our home. on how that
Yeah.
tank may or may not respond, how the air is going to be, the pH, stability, biome, all of that stuff. And so, I don't think, I think if we get caught up in this one thing is always the one thing, that's where we go wrong with it. It's the one thing that seems to work for me. So I try to make sure it's like when I say, oh, this is how I've chosen to do things, or this is what I feel has worked for me, as opposed
Mhm.
to this is the way you got to do it. I'm guilty of these things over the years, man. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm perfect. I'm not. I've
Uh,
I was a
yeah.
different type of reef keeper before I had a life epiphany, and I was that guy who was the Zio guy, or whatever, and the elitist type mentality. And it's like, where does that really get you?
I have followed everybody's method. Um, I don't know. I mean, I can come across with an attitude. I can sound pompous. My wife gives me the look, rightly so. Um, I don't know that I ever found myself in an elitist mindset, elitist group. I kind of like the underdog crowd, the alternative crowd, the people who want to try things a little differently, the people who want to try to change the hobby a little bit, to introduce new whatevers. But I have absolutely followed everybody's method, and none of them fit me or my personality or my travel or whatever, my lifestyle and how I think. But all of them, if you aggregate that together, except for maybe Zeobit, all of that, you take all of those little bits and pieces that you learn from everybody instead of just listening to one person, and then you figure out what best works for you. But
Hmm.
I think that's life in general, and you just got to find what your way is. So, and then you're right, your way is not going to work for me. I'm not going to hang a T5 over my tank. I'm just not going to do it. But I have, and I understand it. But you and I are similar on flow. Like we dig flow that way, we dig that Jabo wave that way. So there's always little bits and pieces that I think is really important. Back to listening, it's really important to listen to both like how people do things and then the questions that they ask, because we all don't know. None of us know. We just don't know. No. So um, the community and the hobby, I think that's where that comes in, because there's all these different people who think differently, who hobby differently, who can provide perspective as long as they're not dicks and just want to argue that their way is best. And then we all grow together. Um, and I think that's a big focus of Reef Beef. You had mentioned Reef Beef. Um,
I
I
have
think
mad
that's
respect for
something.
those dudes.
Yeah, Rich and Ben are cool
I have never had a
in their
chance.
very different ways.
Yeah, I've never had a chance to communicate with either. But here's what I'll tell you. I have did a very small amount of time in service. So
Mhm.
Ben, I don't know if you ever will catch this, but mad respect for what you do, because I did tank maintenance in some very nice homes in Central Florida, and some of the Disney related shit out there. And
Yeah.
all I can tell you is, to have to deal with some of these individuals and the way they think about these animals has to be so damn depressing, and such a tear at the soul to some level. And I don't know his story well enough to make any type of statement. I can just share with you my own personal thing. I had to
Yeah.
leave. I couldn't do it, dude. Like, so hats off to him. And then as far as Rich goes, hats off to him for the mad scientist shit he
Mhm.
does without
Mhm.
looking for a damn accolade out of anything. The work
Yep.
he's doing with spawning and has been doing with that over the years is the kind of shit that needs to be happening with this hobby, because that's how we're going to move it forward. We're not going to move it forward with egos. We're not going to move it forward with products. We're going to move it forward as people connecting, and as a community, like you said before, taking this thing back, and we taking
Yeah, yeah,
ownership of it again. And I
yeah.
truly believe in what you're saying as far as that goes.
Rich. Well, I mean, Ben is he's this quiet genius that I think too many people underestimate. But if you listen to what he's really saying, dude is solid in what he's doing and he knows what he wants. And I have a ton of respect for both how he doesn't flaunt his genius and for the badass clothing that guy wears. But anyway, uh, and then Rich, and I don't want this to be a name dropping thing, right? But Rich was like Rich and my first interaction was over the Sky. When the Sky came out, I tested it, and I was like, oh my god, I'm so disappointed in this light because everybody was all hyped, right? And then Rich caught wind of some of my light testing, and he probably doesn't know this, but he's essentially, who's this guy? What's this guy know? Well, and then that transitioned into a backup, an emergency power thing, and then he and I started discussing it. And now he and Matt, who's in here, right? These guys have just run with it, and they're way beyond what I'm doing, which is
Bro,
exciting for me.
I talk to Matt a
Yeah.
couple times a week on the phone. He's that's the guy that I was telling you about before we got started. That's who came by, and we've shared corals and
Yep.
times together, and he's building a hell of a damn solar system
Mhm.
right now, dude. Like
He hit
I
his he
haven't.
hit his peak ever. He hit his highest ever. I believe it was today or yesterday.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, it was
Yeah.
beautiful out today. I mean, the last 3 days he probably didn't get shit, you know.
Yeah,
But
that's what he said. That's exactly what he said. The last 3 days were his worst.
okay, so that makes sense. Yeah, it was bad, dude. Like, I mean, for me to have to be inside, I had like a little 3 day mini depression. I'm like, how many damn movies can like? Because I can't even watch movies anymore, bro. So I'm like, okay, well, I've got to go back into like Chevy Chase days and like Jaws days and the '70s and '80s for me to
Caddyshack.
enjoy stuff. Yeah, Caddyshack. I was gonna tell you, I was gonna see. Have you ever seen Idiocracy?
Oh, hell yeah, I have. It's yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Sponsored, yeah, sponsored by what's his name? Oh God, that part I wanted to open with that today with you. I actually thought of that. I was like, so, sponsored to you today's show, Reef Hangout, sponsored to be a guy, Carl's Jr. And I was gonna see if you were gonna catch on to that. Oh, it would have been so epic, but yeah, no, Matt's very, very good people, man.
Broad, yeah, Brado. There
Rondo,
it
that's
is.
exactly what I was gonna say. It's the thirst mutilator.
it's what corals crave.
There it is. There it is. You just did it right there. You just came up with it right there. That's the best way, mockery. That's the best way to hit back, man. Like
Yeah.
serious talk. That is the best way to hit back is through fun and humor and mockery. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, Reef UV bulb. I think that's Eric. He's producing a lot of juice there too. I
Holy
like.
crap.
I mean, I like.
94.2? Goodness
He's got
gracious.
a lot going on his house. Um,
Goodness gracious. I'm just
yeah,
looking at
backup
that
power.
number. I'm like, what? Like, holy
That's
crap.
that's some big juice.
I mean, that's basically charging the whole home, I'd imagine at this point. I mean, like, are you off grid yet? You want to mention that? If you, or probably can't. You probably better not. But yeah, I mean, wink if you will.
Torn. Here's one of those questions. I'm torn between the Refi 2 and is it Nycrew? Yeah. Nycrew 200s. That's going to come down to budget. I'm going to tell you that Nycrew's going to, with the stock lenses, you're going to have to set them lower. So you're gonna hang them off the tank like what a Radeon G6, what that mounting height looks like, because the spread is actually the Nycrew is a little better, but that also means more light's bouncing off the top of the water. So you got to think about that. So you got to get it lower or change the lenses out. You can see this one's a tough one for me because you can get the extended warranty from Amazon. They'll take you up to 4 years on the light, 3 on the controller, or is it 3 on the light and 2 on the controller? One of those. But then you could get the refi, and an equally good spectrum with a 3-year warranty from a dude in the Pacific Northwest. So it comes down to 370 versus for the night crew with a controller, and 570, 550 now for a single night crew or a single refi that does not have the spread of the night crew. So you just got to figure out what you want, or run them both. God damn it, because you don't have to pick a single brand light. You can mix them up to give you what you want, because the refi will give you seasons, it'll give you moonlight, it'll give you all those nice nifty things, and you can use the refi for that. Then you can use night crew um, to just give you a really good spectrum. You're just going to have to probably mount them at different heights, which might be a pain, or just change the lenses out on night crew. Then you can hang them at the same height.
What kind of a like footprint are we talking about there, roughly, Jim? Like a 2x2 or like 24 by 24 inch type of
See,
footprint, maybe?
I don't do that because that's going
Oh,
to be
okay.
different for everybody based on their mounting height. So,
Wave
I mean, you can be
motion.
comfortable with a 2x2 because that's what everybody likes to say. I have three 200-watt class lights over a 4-foot tank, and I think that's appropriate because I want to run more lights at a lower power. And that's the value of inexpensive lights like Nicrew, because you can get them cheap. Like this is an entry level light that will perform better than a G6 Radeon, blue or pro. It doesn't matter. So it's an exceptional light
I'm holding back,
for the
bro. I'm
price.
holding back. I
Go
am.
ahead, fire it at me.
No, I love it, dude. So check it out. We got Quanta lights. Luca is out there.
Luca's here.
He said, "Don't buy Quanta lights." I was going to tell you to don't subscribe to my channel. No, I kind of wanted to start open with that. Please don't hit the like button. Don't subscribe. Don't do any of that shit because I don't care. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, moving forward. Welcome to the chat. Welcome everybody. Thank you, Jim, for answering that question. I think it's safe to say that probably if you're going to go SPS dominant, maybe over a 48-inch tank, maybe three. I don't know, maybe three, maybe make you feel more comfortable,
I
or
do
two.
three. If it was me and I'm lighting a 4-foot tank, I'm getting two Nicrew 200s.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could do it with 150s and then a single refi in the middle. Or you could do whatever. I mean, those were the options I was given. There's certainly Quanta options if people want to look into that.
Well, yeah, I love the idea too. And since Luca's in the chat, I wanted to like give him props on. I believe he's got a rail system that is designed that is moving different angles of light.
No, that's not him.
No? Oh, I thought that
No,
was him.
no, that's Battle Cores.
Okay.
Battle Corals is running Reef breeders on that rail. Or are we talking about Rob? No,
No,
Rob
I'm
has
talking.
a
I thought he had developed one where
angle.
like one is at a 45 like this, and then like kind of like it's rounded almost, kind of like that, so that the lights are coming at different angles. Is that correct or no? I thought he had developed like a way to take his the bars, if you will, and then
Hmm.
orient them in such a way.
Clevin.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, Chris Clevin's got these mounts for Quantas it'll mount off of extruded aluminum or like the Radeon bar, that kind of thing. So you could set up bars adjacent to Lucas Atlas.
You see, to me, this is more where I would be because I like the idea of like a T5, right? So to me, it would be more of a spread that I would be familiar with, I think, right? You know,
Oh, if you hung an Atlas over your tank, you'd go first thing you would do is go, damn, that's white. And then the second thing you would do is go, wow, that's really bright and everything is lit.
okay, yeah.
It's
See,
it's that kind of light. You also might number three, you might go, God damn, that's ugly. Because it's kind of ugly.
I
Like
mean,
if I'm farming, that's the light I'm buying. Period. Hands down, because it's gonna save me a ton of energy. But I'm a Luca fanboy, so you gotta take that for what it's worth.
no, it's all good. I mean, again, it's data, right?
It is absolutely dead. I've got the data to support all of those opinions.
See what I mean? Like, and
Yep.
that's puts us right back on track. Like it's sort of this imaginary fairy that somehow lands on a certain type of light and puts a label on it, and all of a sudden it warrants a 25 to a 35% markup over or more.
50.
And
Yeah. I can buy 3 Night Crew 200 lights. One of those will outperform a G6 for the price of a single G6. It's ridiculous.
so,
So
where
you
does
ain't got to
that
spend the
leave?
money.
So, if you were to guess, how many new hobbyists got out before they beat their algae cycle at 1 year and got out? I wonder
Yeah.
how many people bought all of this equipment before they, and what their investment was before they ever really got the biology even going. And that's something that bothers me. It's like one thing I'm trying to work on. I talked to you a little bit before we got started about circadian patterns and lighting. And
Yeah.
I adjust my lighting by 3 minutes each Monday. And I do this until I get to the summer solstice. And then I go back reverse and I build the schedule back down. I toyed with the idea of going LED during the summer and
Yep.
T5 during the winter for energy, because I want to be conscientious of energy costs. And T5s, let's face it, probably not the most economical means of lighting. And
Hmm.
so, even though it's good light, I know that the reef breeder that's sitting, unused is probably comparable to a lesser extent and is probably driving much less power. So I do want to think in terms of LED, and I'm not
Yeah.
staunchy when I say that I just haven't really messed around with it because I just never really had a
Yeah. I
need
gotcha.
to, right? And so yeah, I mean that's kind of where I land with it. But um, this idea of growing the tank, right? So how do we get people starting the hobby to enjoy looking at a tank before you put a light on it, with just the rock in the sand before you even put the first fish in it? How do we get people to enjoy what a copepod looks like? How do we get people to enjoy what the smaller, finer things that are occurring
Yeah.
unbeknownst to our naked eye that are going on in the reef as it's establishing at night? And how do we captivate that essence? And how do we bring that back to where now I have a reason to buy a light because I can see that I really like this shit. I'm now at 6 months. I've only had rock and water in this thing, but I'm starting to see this life develop. And this is really cool. And I'm digging it. And I can just imagine this idea. And, when I put a light on, now what light do I want to buy to support this tank that's going to be the
Yeah.
best decision for this tank? What kind of a coral tank do I want? Do I want a coral tank? Are we asking these questions? Are we even looking in the mirror, for goodness sakes, and asking these questions to ourselves? Like, what do I want to do before I even put the first animal in the tank? What's my
Yeah.
what's my vision? And now obviously that's subject to change, right? As you grow, you might decide, what I might make a change or decide to go a different route. But either way, why can't we grow into the minerals, grow into the reef? Do we have to say from day one, I need to be at 8.0 DKH. I need to be at 420 calcium, 1350 magnesium. I need to be at this, and I need all these parameters to be this when the coral hadn't even hit the tank yet. It's not even tugging on ions yet. And here
Yeah.
we are trying, instead, let the coral start signaling like a garden, right? Signaling, saying, hey, dude, well, where's that calcium, bro? Where's that magnesium, dude? I want that shit. And then
Yep.
start upping the mineral concentration as we grow into the reef. And, the biological aspects equally to the same. But how do
Yeah.
we get people re-engaged into the smallest things again? Uh, I know the live rock issue, it is, but I believe there are solutions to that. I truly believe there's ways that we can share biology. And Jim, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, or if you want to take over the wheel right now. But I just wanted to sort of give you a background on my little reef right here is only a nano. It's a mixed reef,
Hmm.
Acropora, acans,
Yep.
shallow little IM 40. converted. I drilled it myself. I got
Yeah.
a 10-gallon Petco tank as the sump. No sock rollers, no filters.
Hmm.
There's nothing on the system. I've actually gone reverse. I've gone back to nothing because in my mind, what role is carbon? What role is phosphate or GFO? What role
Yeah.
is all of these things playing on the system? And when I'm testing, how do I know how that's interplaying into what the true test is of where I'm at in the reef? And so for me, I felt like if I peel everything away, I can now start to wrap my mind around what is my nitrates, what is my phosphates, and keeping in mind some of these numbers are just numbers in flux, and it can
They are
shift
just
from out
numbers.
throughout the day.
Absolutely.
So you know, I don't know if you want to like kind of share with me your thoughts on that, but I do believe that there's a part of the hobby where I think we want to instantly have a reef. And I really would love for us to break this mindset that there is no such thing as is an instant reef. Even this reef that I put together, Matt NSB Reef, gave me all my rock back from my old system and many
Yep.
frags to get this tank going, water from his tank. Everything was live. And a year later, I'm still dealing with shit. So there is no such thing
That's
as an instant
interesting.
reef.
That's interesting that you are still dealing with something.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I've got bubble, I've got
yeah.
ulva, hair, those things. But see, I don't take the conventional approach to these things. I don't. I still have core acroporas that are colorful, and my acans are
Hmm.
fluffy. I'm
Yeah.
going to feed, right? So I'm
Yeah.
biology driven in my mind. I think the corals want to eat, and I think that the system wants to eat. And I have a oversized protein skimmer, and then I let that do the work. And I
Yeah.
open the door, let fresh air in and out, and don't test pH. I test alkalinity once every 2 weeks. I don't test phosphate. I don't test nitrate. I don't do none of it. I just treat it like a garden. I know that if I put a piece of food in this big to my community of fish, that that's phosphates and nitrates. And so
Hmm.
why do I need to test this to find out I know food's going in the system. And then I know
Yeah.
smaller mouths and corals, et cetera, everybody's going to get their share. But if I have less mechanisms in the way of everybody getting their share, to me, that's kind of the gardening approach. I'm trying to
Hmm.
utilize every bit of nutrients and instead of stripping and then adding and stripping and adding, I'm just like,
Yeah.
just let
Don't
it
do
do
that.
its
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Just let it,
I'm with you.
just let it.
So you started with how do we change how people start a tank, how they perceive a tank, how they perceive the process. And the challenge that we all face is that instant gratification, that Instagram tank that everybody likes to show. Like that's what everybody wants. If they're getting into hobby and they start poking, like when I got into RC, all I did was started poking around at everybody's content. And then I got into DIY RC airplanes, and I was like, all right, this is kind of cool. And then I ate up everything I could possibly eat on DIY airplanes, and then just rolled into that community and had a lot of fun doing that stuff. But the Instagram tanks that you see, they're right, they're all beautiful and they're all fancy and they all have something going on. I started my 20-gallon, I restarted actually, I should say, the 20-gallon that I have on the first floor very similarly to what you just said in that um, it was water and some rocks and some sand. And then I grabbed a rock and water and some media from downstairs. So I started the tank that way. And then I set it on a 60-day light acclimation. So I didn't have full intensity lights, which are already low for softies and SPS or LPS. Um, I didn't have full light for 60 days. So I just let the tank do what the tank was going to do. And it was oddly pretty in its own way, in that it just sat there and the water was clean and the tank was clean. And I would just look over it every once in a while to see if I could see anything moving around in there, because I did break things from downstairs. And then suddenly there's like one starfish. And I was like, we got some life in the tank. So I'm sure there's other things in there that I'm not seeing, right? So, but to shift society, we're all holding our phones and we're all right, instant gratification. And so to shift that how do I get into reefing? How do I keep a new reefer in the hobby? Just and I say that just to have someone else with whom I can enjoy the hobby with, not somebody I can sell my used shit to or whatever. Like, because there's a couple different reasons why we want new people in the hobby, and mine has nothing to do with money. But how are you going to shift society, right? That's a hell of that's a big ship to turn, and you're going to have a hard time doing it.
Hmm.
Um, I also didn't share that 20-gallon journey that much, if at all, because that was sort of my journey, right? That was something that I was enjoying with my wife, and that's sitting in the chairs, that we have coffee. That's where, right? That's our morning routine, and the tank's right here next to me. So um, I think it comes down to, and Rob sort of touched on it a little bit, is that local community. So that's if you have to put yourself in a position to be approachable, and somebody, and I've got like reefers really close by that I happen to meet randomly, some through the hobby and one through freaking Walter Reed down there at a doctor's appointments, which was odd, which was
Hmm.
amazing too. But um, you have to be approachable, I suppose. Um, and you have to be open to their stupid questions, because we all have stupid questions, and stupid questions are awesome. They're fire away. I don't like that there's the disclaimer. Sometimes I get into my Discord, sorry if I'm asking something stupid, sorry if this isn't the right place. Just fucking ask me the question. I'm totally cool. Just say it however you want. Whatever words you want to use to ask your question that you think is stupid, it's not. Go for it. And then provide relatively simple answers, simple paths, multiple paths if you're feeling froggy, right? Because there's absolutely more ways than one to do it. So give
Hmm.
people the option. If they want to do it this way, this is how you do it. Like somebody was talking about, it was in my Discord. Somebody was talking about how to get rid of dinos. And I saw a method online that I'm questioning, but I understand maybe it works. So, right, I shared with the disclaimer, I've not done this. And I don't know why this is working, but it sort of seems maybe it's working. So consider it. Go find out more information, right? I don't want to share like this totally works. I know it works, but I've never done it, so I don't want to know. But again, back to how we help people, it's just being approachable, um, not selling, uh, not mocking people who aren't mocking you, because I'll go after people that mock me, because right, like you and I talked about, it's genetically I'm predisposed to doing that, and it brings me joy sometimes, and it shouldn't, but it does because I'm that kind of jerk. But and it's fun for me. But help people without mocking. Help people without making them feel stupid. Um, because they probably already feel stupid, so you don't have to help them.
I
And
wonder
then
too.
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I wonder too, like, I worked closely with a store owner of a fish store years ago. I did work a little bit of retail with him for a while, and just to have an understanding of the way it flowed, right? How an
Mhm.
LFS works. And it would bog you down because of the internet, and then you would go on to answer many questions. And I think
Yeah.
the stores are so now disenfranchised with internet and forums and Instagram and everything else. They really don't want to answer any questions. And then I think those are missed opportunities. And what I would say is, like,
Mm,
if somebody's in a store and they're buying something for the aquarium trade, right? That means they're in the hobby to a lesser extent, right? That's an opportunity to get them, it's at least to the right place. So I
yeah.
have this idea, if we reach out to the LFSs and drive, hey, instead of you taking all this time out of your time on the floor trying to sell things and do what you're trying to interact with two or three different customers, redirect them back to the channel here, bring them to the community, and I'll do my work on the backside to try to help build that reefer in the community. And then they can go to you to buy live goods or whatever it is they
Yeah,
need.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so that's something that I do know a couple of the store owners here in my local community, and I'm going to propose to them, like, hey, if you're tired of dealing with, just direct them somewhere. Okay, it doesn't have to be to my page.
Hmm.
I would say not Reef to Reef. Okay, leave that
No,
off. I would
yeah,
say Humble Fish, right? If I were to say
yes,
something,
absolutely.
me personally,
Yep,
I would
yep.
say
Me
to a
too.
channel like Reef Beef if you want to have some fun,
Yep.
and you want to learn, but you really want to have some sarcasm too, because that shit makes me laugh my ass off, and I love it. So, here's all I got to say, bro. I mean, like, those are missed opportunities. They don't want to deal with them because they already know they're going to go to the internet. They know they're going to go to Amazon and buy what they need after taking and getting all the information, absorbing it, and then they leave the store. And then off to the internet they go. And I understand from a store perspective how frustrating that must be. But I think those are missed opportunities. And I think if you're really good at what you do, then you should be able to get them to buy right there.
So, the dude Todd, who you hear mentioned on Reef Beef all the time, right? Because he's Champion Lighting Supply. He's also an LFS, so he has something fishy up in Pennsylvania, and I've been
Oh,
there, and
okay.
it's beautiful. It's a really, really nice store. So Todd's coming at it both from the dry goods retail side, all the way over to the LFS, and he runs a very successful LFS. And it's not one of those, like, I got one here that you don't want to walk in there because you're going to catch some sort of disease just being in there because it's nasty. And that's not cool, but that's what it is. Todd's place isn't that. So what I think, you have to function with the internet. You gotta become one with it, right? And I think Todd has done a good job of both getting his name out there. Champion is a recognized name. He can speak to equipment all day long. He helps both um, wholesale and retail people equally, even though I think the bulk of his business is probably wholesale. But Todd puts himself out there in various forums to be accessible. Like, he's hanging out in my Discord, and if somebody has a question, he'll answer, but he doesn't answer in a way that says you got to buy it from me, right? That you got that he doesn't do it that way. And then and I think that's the right way, right? You got to evolve based on societal shifts to stay relevant. And I think he's doing a good job. And then if you walk in the guy's LFS, you're like, oh shit, this is nice. This is a nice store. He's doing something right. And the prices are reasonable. You would right prices you would expect in an LFS, especially when they're reasonable. But that's the way to do it. Be accessible. Don't say you got to do it his way. And then just roll with it. I don't know. I think it works for him. And I think it works for him because that's who he is and he gets it. I don't know that they all get it.
Well, and there's something about that authentic approach, I mean, the real, um, the people that are studied or that really are interested are going to recognize that, and
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
they're gonna accept that for what it is, and I think that ultimately that's really what you're trying to appeal to anyway. I mean, when you
Mhm.
when you think about it, when the dust settles, so. Yeah, I mean, I guess it is going to be tough in the age of, instant gratification, in the age
Yep.
of doom scrolling and all of
Yep.
that thing that happens. Um, Me personally, like I have a different take on dimensions, and to me, it's a linear surface. And so, because of that, I don't like reducing my dimensional process. And to me, if
Hmm.
I look at a screen, I'm looking at two dimensions. I'd rather be looking at third dimension and above. So,
Yeah.
to me, that's my take. It's different, right? You may have never looked at it that way or not. I don't know, but to me, it's my way of. I have to honor it for what it is, and I do honor it
Mhm.
for what it is, but then I also honor away from it. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes those who are so embedded in it and don't give it a break, maybe psychologically that does do something that induces these behaviors that causes someone to be sort of aggressive or
I
do
agree.
things that maybe normally they wouldn't do, if they just took a break, man, and just like went and saw some real shit. Maybe, like stick your
Yeah.
head down in the tank with a mask on and like look at the stuff, like and
Or go to a local club, right? Go
yeah,
to a meeting.
and there's something to be said about that, because when you get people together, it's like that camaraderie that builds. And
Yeah.
and and then
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can take that away, and then how many people individually are we going to be able to impact, and how many more can we possibly impact? And I think there's something to that, like what you were speaking on, Todd. It's the positive nature. It's the I don't really care whether or not you buy from me. I'm doing this because I'm passionate about it. I love it. Now, granted, I would love for you to invest into the product or whatever,
Yep.
but that's not why I'm here. And that level of authenticity is really the people who these companies should be catering to. They should be catering to that person, that hobbyist. They should be taking their money, their revenues, their marketing revenues, instead of pumping it into, I don't even want to say it, influence. Okay, I did. Um, Instead of putting these dollars, put it into the people that are making the electronics. Put it into a 401k for them. Give them a raise. Give them profit sharing. Do something outstanding for the hobby. Donate. Donate to school. Find a school and set up all of these aquarium manufacturers. Yeah, I'm putting you on notice, right? Why don't you find a school and
Yeah.
go and set up one of your tanks in a school, right? You want Instagram coverage? Every kid in that freaking classroom's got a phone, and they're going to be on Instagram.
Yeah.
Duh. It's just like missing. They're missing. They're not seeing the trees through the forest, Jim. They're missing. They're missing opportunities. They're missing
And in doing it
opportunities.
the way I agree. Um, and and the way they do it makes the hobby more expensive. The way they're doing
Yes.
it now absolutely makes it more expensive for all of us. And that's not a popular message. But for every show you need to set up for every travel group that you take with you, for every donation you make for the raffle, for all of the straight up ass kissing, there has to be a financial aspect to that to get your name right on the badge or on a banner somewhere. Uh, right, you got to be spending money to get in that party. Like, there's just so
So
much
that's the
money
pay
in
to
those
play game.
things.
Yeah, that's the pay
Yeah,
to play game, man. Like
but that
it's a
costs us
real
all
thing.
money.
It's a real thing,
Ultimately, that is increasing the price,
and it's sad, but
and
it's
it
a real
probably
thing.
raises the price, but yeah, I mean, I get that people like that. Um, I've been to all of them. I didn't go to a Macna, um, and I should have. Should have gone to the Macna DC, but
2016 San Diego. That
or
was
I
a
heard the
hell of a
Vegas one
time.
was the bomb. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually
Um,
still used to drink back then, so I had a hell of a time out there, man. But but I
but
I
I've
I
been to all the
love.
shows. Except for Reef Retreat, but I'm going this year. But
Okay.
um, that's not my jam. And maybe I feel that way just because I'm like, this sucks. This is kind of boring. Like, why do I want to? I like the talks. I like, throw me a little science, throw me a little alternative opinion about something, and let me ponder that kind of business. Right. Throw
Mhm.
some throw some smart peoples in the room. People throw some smart people in the room, and get some interesting new, old that are new opinions flowing and see what happens from that. But if I want to walk through some aisles and look at people selling shit, I can just do that on Amazon.
Yeah, man. I worked with a popular tank manufacturer before, when they were a distribution company, and they at the time, they were carrying Aquaforce. So I was kind of aligned
Mm,
with Aquaforce. And back to the influencer sponsor. So I want to talk on that too.
yeah.
When I was when I was approached by Aquaforest, I was given product
Hmm.
for Reef for using on my Reef. Now,
Yeah.
what I had to do in return, bro, it wasn't worth it. Okay, I mean, I was running their Reef to Reef, their Reef Central, and their Facebook, and I was modding on all of that. And I mean, my inbox would be full. I'd clear it out. Next morning, it'd be full. And behind the scenes, so much work had to be done, and you know, it was a really a true sponsorship. That's a little bit different, I think, now than where we land. I think we're in a different place nowadays. But I did some work with them. I had an opportunity to go out and go to Macna and work with
Hmm.
them. I've been to a lot of different shows in my time, and I've seen the behind the scenes stuff. And yeah, I mean, I've seen some things that just make you want to shake your head.
The
Um, Pardon? Did I drop?
Am I back?
Yeah, you're there.
Okay, you'll appreciate that Todd from Champion Lighting was just calling me.
That is really cool.
I'll have to send him a text.
That is coincidental. Like
It
you
is
spoke
indeed.
to him in the in a different wavelength right there, right?
He could
Like
hear it.
it's
He
all
could
the
hear it.
same. It's all the
He could hear
same.
it.
I mean, if you think it, it's the same wave format as light and sound. I mean, really, if you think about it, it's
We
all the
talked
same.
about that listening, right? We talked about it. Had you wrapped up your stank of the hobby part that you were getting at?
Yeah, I'm pretty good with it. I mean, I just feel like some of the money that it takes to go to these shows, I don't think really they're the return. I can't
Oh
see the
yeah, no
return.
way,
I
no
just
way.
can't see it.
I
And
mean,
and so I think
Luke
it's a
is
waste of
gone,
money.
and yeah, Luke is gone. He's eating dinner now, but he could tell you that when we went to that's the only time I've met him in person. He brought Quanta to Denver to Reef Stock, and I met him there, and it absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he didn't. No way. I mean, it's all to rub skin, right? To meet and greet and to I get that there is an aspect that that I don't need, that my brain does not handle well, that people want. People want to walk up to a booth and ask manufacturers questions that they may or may not answer truthfully, right? They're gonna answer in a way that supports their marketing, supports their product, supports their business. That's not the answer I'm looking for when I'm asking questions about equipment. But people want that, whatever that is, that reassurance. Are we choppy now?
I hear you just fine. How are you hearing me okay, Jim?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, it might have been a minute ago you were choppy, so it could have been a delay on yeah, oh, look at you. You're already in there, man. You're better at this than
No,
me.
we're
Yeah,
good
we're good.
now. Okay. So I get it,
So,
right? I'm not anti-show. I'm anti-expensive hobby, unnecessarily expense.
mhm.
And the show is an aspect of that, and the influencer is an aspect of that. But I get people like the shows. That's cool. I don't have to like them. Um, but if that's your jam, go forth and show. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun as a novelty. I think once you realize that there's outside of people just maintaining a booth. I mean, typically,
Hmm.
if you show up on the Sunday, you might get the better deal because they don't want to take it back. Yada yada yada.
Sure.
Everyone knows
Yeah.
that. But I mean, outside of the Sunday bargains, the 4 o'clock bargains, I mean, I don't know that other than that are just I don't know, man. I mean, it's just a place to rub elbows, like you said, just to be social.
Yeah,
And if that's your thing, that's cool too. I'm not here to hate
totally.
on it. I just say like it's not my thing. I would rather not be social. I'd rather um spend my money at at a all the travel, all the money that I'd spend and all the nonsense, ticket pricing, all that stuff. I'd rather just go down to my local LFS and buy a cleanup crew
Yeah,
or
yeah.
some fish food or something like that. But to each our own. Like I said, it's not me trying to hate on them. I've
I
been
think I
to
want to
many
check out one of
shows.
those little shows. I want to check out one of those little, like I haven't done that. Check out one of those little regional guys just to see what that's look like. See what the sellers are selling. And again, but I've said it. I'm not a big coral buyer. I like trading. Trading's cool. So I would absolutely drag stuff with me and see if people wanted to trade. But whatever.
Yeah, I think it gets
Mhm.
back to that. That local community, that local connection, and
Yeah,
us saying, "Hey, here's what we want to do." Like I've had a few of the guys, Matt and a couple other
Matt.
dudes come over, and we hang out, man. We chill
Yeah,
out. We chop it up. We talk coral, walk the garden, hang out, whatever, visit the dogs. It's all good,
yep.
and that's to me that's going to be the thing, but we have to also then tell ourselves, hey, this is really up to us. If we want to build this community, we really need to build it together. And I think the LFSs, man, like through all of this, deserve love. If the
Hmm.
ones that are doing it right,
The
the
good
ones
ones.
that care,
Yep.
the ones that are in it for the well-being of the animals and the hobby and the people that are spending money with them and whatnot. But I think I think they're so probably how do you want to put it? Some of them are probably burned out,
Oh,
you
sure.
know, and I do think there's going to be a slight return. I really do. I think the younger generation. I have a 20-year-old and a 27-year-old
Hmm.
myself. I have a daughter, and then Cindy's middle boy I adopted after she passed, and so he's 20, she's 28. So getting to know them, I do see this like change happening with the younger generation where I feel like they're really wanting to kind of put the phone down to a lesser extent and want to see what it's like to get dirt under their fingernails, what it's like to dig a garden, or what it's like to put their hands into a tank. And I really see this, and I think if we're there for them and we can bridge that, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's what we should do. And I think that's the future, and that's our opportunity to slow things down and say, look, you don't have to have this tonight. You don't have to have it tomorrow, but you can still have joy in it tomorrow and tonight. You just might not have that long-term goal that you want to reach with it. But think of it as a canvas. Think of it as just a blank canvas, and you're not going to get the full set of paint and the full set of brushes. You're going to have to work your way into a larger set, a larger palette of colors over
Yeah.
time. And I think if we were to just sort of illustrate it this way, there could be more buy-in, and hopefully, they do take the time to look at the data, right? And
Yeah.
make their decisions based on what's best for them. And hopefully they make informed decisions that are in fact rooted in data.
Part of that's exposure, though, right? Part of that's on us to expose, not to be the old men in the room talking philosophy of parenting, etc. But isn't that on? I mean, the onus is on us to get those people out there. Um, for example, my grandson. My grandson is a phone in the face kind of kid, right? He's
Mhm.
gaming. My son's the same way, right? Lots of phone, lots of time, lots of screen time. I remember when screen time was a concern. Now everybody's screen time, so whatever. We've all moved past that. But I also will take that kid with me, both of them. I'll take them up to Minnesota to the cabin we share with some family, and, although my grandson may have his phone with him, and my son may have his phone with him, my grandson's gonna hop in the hammock and hang out underneath those whispering pines and just dig the earth just for a little while, right? Just listen and watch and see and just experience. And while my son will be down on the dock chucking a lure in the water for absolutely no reason, right? It doesn't matter if there's a fish there. It's 0% matters. It's just time outside,
Hmm.
listening, watching loons. So it's exposure. For us to want that from the youngers, it puts us in a position where we have to give them outside time or promote that outside time or force those little assholes to get outside because that's the way it
Well,
needs to be, right?
yeah, I mean, I think that's true. That's so true. You're not the only one. Like my 20-year-old, same way, man. Like he's just in that phone. The data will be gone. He'll blow through the monthly data by like day three on
Yeah,
the plan switch. Because like I have Wi-Fi. It's on for the stream, but as soon as the stream ends, the Wi-Fi goes off. I go back to the Cat 5 in the computer, and the cell phone's on 4G, and I don't want to really get into all that, but that's just me, and
yeah,
I just would rather leave it there. Like, so I might be on the opposite end of the spectrum, but it's my approach, it's my message, it's how do I encourage, right? Like, hey, let's go for a walk, dude. And I've done that,
absolutely.
and great success.
Yeah,
And to the point where he's like, hey, let's go for a walk this morning. I'm like, all right, let's go for a walk. But it is important, that that we become that bridge. We are the Gen Xers. We are the bridge between the old and the new world.
hmm,
When it's all said and done, I believe that's what our generation is literally here for. We know all of like you. I mean, technically speaking, but I'm sure at times you need to take a break from it, and you can recognize the old world and realize how important it is to reconnect back to the old world. And so, how I guess the answer to the question is how restoring the hobby is a broader question, right?
it is.
But I think some of it is rooted in what you're speaking of right here. So,
Or
um,
just helping, just exposure. Exposure really matters. If you can have, right, somebody to sit down and just talk about it, or answer the phone when, except when you're streaming with Perry and you can't answer the phone, right? Answer the phone and talk to people and see what they got to share. And
and
uh,
offer it
absolutely,
like I do. I mean, I've had people that and I don't know if they got weirded out, but like in Instagram they'll message me, and I'm like, I got like my hands are big, and when I'm sitting here typing, I misspell everything, and I get so frustrated, Jim. Like, so I'm just like, I just don't like texting. Okay, I
yeah,
don't
okay,
like looking at a
yep,
phone. I don't, when I have to do that kind of stuff, it takes me away from my ability to communicate like this. And
yeah.
so I tell somebody like, hey, here's my number, get on the phone with me, and I'm like, maybe that sounded kind of forward or off or whatever, and I didn't really think of it like that to
Yeah,
to some of the people. But so one guy, I went and made a video for him to answer his question,
yeah, I've done the
and
same.
I think that's the kind of stuff that I'm gonna do. Like, I I do these Reef Hangouts, right? But I want to, if you're in the community, let's go on the show. Let's talk about
Yeah,
your
yeah,
tank.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be, we haven't looked at your tank today. We don't have to. I've seen your
Mhm.
tank. It's nice, and you're doing an amazing job with it. But we don't
Thanks.
have to necessarily go through a tank tour, and we don't have to see the current state or whatever. We can still talk Reef without even looking at it, right? And so, if we bring people on board, it might make them feel like, hey, like I'm this guy. I don't even have my first coral, but here I am on a reef platform. That kind
Yeah,
of
that's
stuff
cool.
resonates, and I that's the kind of direction that I have chosen to do.
Hmm.
Where I'm headed is one subscriber at a time, grassroots. It goes
Yep.
back to an old 311 album called Grassroots, and it was their first album. I really liked that band back in the day, and I built this channel with this community, and together we have built it one subscriber at a time. And it's not about how many subscribers that are here. I can, I mean, I'm sure there's a few at this point, but I haven't paid for one subscriber. I
Yep.
haven't
No. Why would
I
you do
haven't
that?
done any of these things, and I don't plan on it. There's no sponsorship. This is a community, and that's the nature of the direction I'm trying to channel with the YouTube channel here is to put community notes out about, hey, did you tune your pumps recently? Have you gone in and taken them and take the hose to them and
Yep.
scrubbed them off recently?
No, I haven't.
Reminder, you know what I mean? Like, so these are the things that I want to bring into, it's just like these are the things that we do, right? It's water change Saturday. What are you doing today? Like I'm changing water out. What are you doing? Like Matt and I hook up all the time. He's like, dude, I'm changing water. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's
dude, so am
cool.
I. And that's the kind of direction I would really love to take at least this channel, and it's just one person at a time. And I appreciate everybody, um, everybody that's come and hung out, including you, and all the people that have decided to spend time here. It warms my heart. It
It's
really
cool,
does.
right? People have things to do, and they're stopping by, and they're saying, "Hey,"
My
and
kid
that's
put it
cool.
such in perspective to me one day. He goes, and it was great because I was, like, how do I get over? I was like, by the end of this year, it was 2025. I was like, one of my goals is like to try to get over 1,000 subscribers. I would really
Mhm.
love to see if I could have done that, right? And I remember I was like seven something or whatever, and I'm like, this is gonna be a long road, And he goes, but did you think about it like this, Dad? When's the last time you had 750 people in a room that were all paying attention and looking at what you're doing? And I was like, holy shit, you're right.
Yep. Yep.
You know, you're absolutely right.
Totally.
Even 40 people, whatever. That's where I
Yep.
started, by the way. I was like at 40 subscribers. And then,
Yeah.
I said, I'm gonna just do this thing. And yeah, just having a great time, great time with it. A great time bringing different minds on board. Some are outstanding aquarists in their own right. And but this is a part for me that I really felt was important to validate my message, the message this community, representing this community, the message that we want to invoke in this community
Mhm.
is very in line with some of what you're speaking of, and I felt like when I saw some of what you were sending out on Instagram and whatnot, I was so refreshed with it. I'm like, man, it really warms my heart to see this level of authenticity. And yeah, it resonated with me, right? That's all I can say.
People think it's for the clicks, for the likes, and I have a hard time with that. And let me pick your brain on that one for a minute. So, is that the ego question that people are asking? Like, I've been accused of posting from insiders, like people who are in the hobby, like in big reefing. Like I'm posting for likes, like I'm posting for clicks. My YouTube channel was monetized at some point. It is no longer, and I'm not sponsored. Like nobody's like I don't have to do anything for anybody. Um, and then what the fuck does a like give me? What does a click give me? Because it's not giving me anything. Like it's not financially benefiting me. It is it is just another person who found value in what I shared. And I've already mentioned this, right? That my message is oftentimes very polarizing. So I will have just as many people who can't stand the message that I've shared as people who are liking what I have to say at the time. Their opinion may change as they grow through the hobby. They may find my message to be
Hmm.
unacceptable, and that's cool because let's have that discussion.
Or vice versa, Jim.
Fair. But what I'm looking for is like why I find it to be incredibly weak-minded for somebody to accuse someone of doing something for the likes or for the clicks when it's not monetized at all. Because that's then assuming, and maybe it's projection, that's assuming that that person has some sort of ego that needs to be fed through the tiny little hearts that show up on an Instagram post. And I find that to be petty at best. Like, that's not a
Yeah.
thing. I'm not paying attention to how many people have liked my post. If one person has liked it, then I have found somebody who appreciated that message, and that's good enough.
Yeah, man. I have to agree. wholeheartedly and 110 on that. I can't say that when my journey began that I wasn't looking to add
Mm.
subscribers,
Hmm.
that I wasn't wanting to have. I can't say that there wasn't a time when I had a dream of being a coral boutique,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I can't if I'm honest with myself. However, what I have learned, me personally, is I've learned my lane.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've learned my lane, where my lane is. When I learned that what I'm here for, it has nothing to do with likes. It has nothing to do with even being liked. Quite
Hmm.
frankly, it is very refreshing to have one good friend, right?
Hmm.
It's very refreshing to live alone. It's refreshing to have personal space. For
Yeah.
some people, for some, it's not. For some, it is. For me, it is. And I'm very, very happy in my own skin. Now, I can't say that everybody is, and I'm not trying to speak on their behalf. Okay.
Right.
I'm just saying that I'm good, right? I'm good where I'm at, and I don't need to be validated by another person. I don't need anyone to validate what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and the method in which I do it. Um, that's where I'm at. And that makes me dangerous. Sorry, don't mean to
No,
be that. I'm not trying to be that. I'm just trying to be honest.
you.
And
You're trying to be you.
yeah, man, in the end, and I'm not going to, like you, I'm not going to allow what I'm trying to do to be interfered with or to be impeded, right? Like
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not going to allow what the intent is behind the modus operandus to affect me the way the mode is created in the back rooms, right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give it any validation. And that's where I ride with it. And I'm good, man, And so to me, the hobby is a very a simple place right now. It's a side part of my life. It's
Yeah.
one little aspect of what makes me who I am. It is not how I define myself.
Testing feeds a need I have. Like I like gaining that knowledge. I like understanding what something is capable of doing, and that's whether I'm testing a light or whatever. I'll test all sorts of things, and some's public and some is not. It's just something I like to do. Sometimes it gets me in trouble, and sometimes it doesn't. But that's just part of my personality. And then when I
That's
share
the
something,
why.
yeah. And when I share what I'm testing, I'm not sharing what I'm testing to. Actually, I've been accused of hating companies, which is such a ridiculous thing to say. Like, a company is an inanimate thing. Like, it's not something to hate because that seems a little, I don't know, dumb. It doesn't resonate with me. Why would somebody hey, now, if a company somehow led to the demise of a family member or something, or if something like that, then I get that's a different kind of thing.
Hmm.
But if it's because you sell a light that's $1,000 and I hate you because of that, that is so myopic and childish. And it's like this
Yeah.
thing that people can't comprehend, so they apply hate to it. So Telegram hates big reefing. That's not what it is. Telegram appreciates big reefing as a line that people um, accept. So then, if I can find budget gear that will make that line, then that's what I like, and that's why I test. That's like, it's
Well,
not a
Jim,
hate. It's
this is
a
how innovation happens, dude. I mean, seriously, if there weren't people doing independent testing and research, then how could you put the pressure on the industry to up their ante and up their game? So you know
Luca.
what? You're just showing the elephant in the room as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
You're not doing anything more than actually you're doing them a favor and they don't even recognize it. If you think of it this way,
hmm.
you're actually doing these companies a favor by exposing the areas in which they have opportunities, the areas of where they could imply focus, the areas where they could re-innovate, the areas where they could make it right, and where they could then focus their marketing dollars appropriately. I mean,
The influencer spin it a different way in that I'm stealing innovation from, or just by sharing alternative gear, it's stealing innovation away from those who innovated and then just sat on that shit for decades, not making anything better. Now I'm back. You were gone there
okay,
for a second.
yeah, it does
Um,
this refresh thing.
it's not stealing innovation. Like it's not stifling innovation to find copycat or alternative gear that can perform just as well. It should drive innovation. And I think Luke is a good example of that. And I think I talk about him too often, but I think what he did in Reef Lighting is innovative because he found existing equipment that could then be modified to his specifications and improved. Like, you can't buy from the company that makes his bars the bars that he makes. Like, they just, you can't do it. It's not offered. uh and he has changed lighting in a way that I think people don't appreciate, but that's okay because he's not going to be able to move big volumes anyway. But right, he and I started talking because of T5s. Like, I was, you'll appreciate this. I was like, screw a bunch of T5s. I don't need that action. I don't want to have to worry about recycling those bulbs and mercury and I like LEDs, right? That's how I rolled. Luca at the time was halide and T5s, and he's like, you just recycle them, man. What's your problem? And I'm like, yeah, but why do I have to? Like, when there's alternatives that can perform similarly, if not better. And then he and I start talking. And I have a couple spectrometers. He's like, "Give me the spectrum of this light. Can you do that?" And it's a whatever. It was just a regular old household bulb. So I sent him spectrums. And then he started digging and he started thinking about it. And he started working through a couple of manufacturers that could give him what he wanted. And then poof, Quanta's born. And I'm like, that's cool to watch happen, right? I'm on the outside. He will include me every once in a while, like if he wants to. It's not really bouncing ideas off me because he's already got it figured out. But it's more like, what do I think? Because I've tested all these other lights. He's like, what do you think? And I was like, well, I think that's pretty cool, or I think, maybe. But then he just keeps doing it his way, and his way is really working for him. But all of that started from a conversation about me shaming T5s that are inanimate, that don't have feelings, and it's okay because I
Yeah,
had
I don't.
the T5 people hop in and really go crazy on me way
Oh,
back in the day. But
I used to get the same from the metal halide crew back when T5s didn't work, and
yeah,
I had to then show pictures showing yes they do work. You know, here you go. That's not T5s. Yeah, it
and then
is.
Sanjay, right? Photons and photons and photon. So
It's yeah. I mean,
lights light.
I outside of the sun, I mean, all we're trying to do is simulate. We're
It
trying
is
to
simulating.
take perfection and do our best to recreate what is already amply, perfectly sound in the full array of spectrum. And I do appreciate the work with LEDs. Like I said, I'm going to eventually hang up the T5s.
Mhm.
And when I do, I know that I will do plenty of data research and make the best informed decision because money does matter to me.
Yep.
Um, it really does. But until I get to that place, I'm digging what you're doing. I'm digging that your heels in and you're willing to do these tests and expose what you're willing to expose. And I think it's perfectly needed and perfectly warranted. And I don't feel once have I ever seen any messaging come from you that's fishing for attention, likes, or
No,
any of these things. So
no.
yeah, that doesn't really land with me. But
I want to
um,
make it easier. I want to make it easier for people to pick a light because it's really hard. Like, you don't know how to buy a light. You just sort of have to hope and guess. And I just want to make it easier. So here's some data that may help you at least write that foundation we discussed earlier. Here's your foundation. Understand that if you pick any of these lights, that you'll be successful. Go from there and see what you think, right? I just want to make
So
it easier.
So I do have a question for you though, because this is something that I've wondered about LEDs with me because I'm a tinker and why I've resisted because I don't like having things at my fingertips and having the ability to control and
Yeah.
change spectrums for me is for me who's really color oriented and colors on acros,
Mhm.
I'm always looking, what can I do to improve this or improve that? So what is your, like, do you have a recommendation on greens, reds,
Yeah.
whites, blues, royals, violets? I've heard 100% get out on all of them, and that's where you're going to get pretty close to what you need to support acropora growth. What's your take on settings and spectrums and things of this nature?
Yeah, I gotcha. We'll start with all reef lights will grow corals. Period. There's no way around that. Um, Many in the hobby like to mention that corals adapt, and they do, and that's cool because all no matter what you buy, it's going to grow. It's going to grow a coral. Um, B all of those different settings that your light may have, those modes, those AB pluses, those whatever the hells that you can pick that a light manufacturer gives you, it's bullshit. It's all marketing.
Okay.
They don't do anything better or different or whatever. Um, if you have an LED with adjustable channels, because not all of them are adjustable, right? Bars aren't adjustable. Atlas from Luca's not adjustable. Some of them you just plug in and it already well, Kessel is adjustable, but if you're just using the knobs, it's really only it's minimally adjustable. You just turn all your blues up. Turn your if you have UV, pin it. If you have violet, pin it. If you have blue, royal blue, pin them. And then you're left with some variant or multiple variants of white, green, red, right? That's it. So then if the blue is too blue, turn up the green a little bit because it takes away some of the blue. And then just turn up the red and the whites so it looks good to you. And you'll grow acros. And your acros will color up because the bulk of that isn't the light. It's how you're maintaining your tank, from my perspective.
So you
And
don't
then
think that? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, and then adjust the intensity so you're not blasting the hell out of your corals. Like I run a really low par tank and I'm growing acros just fine. So um, I don't have to worry about photo inhibition because I'm not blasting the hell out of my corals. Like a lot of my acros are only getting like maybe at most 120 par because I'm not running my lights hot. What's your question?
It was more in the range of like, so when you're dialing your white, so you mentioned that you do it by sight, like visual sight on the
Yeah.
red and green. Um,
Yep. And
I
the white.
I usually would do is I would try to match on the reef breeders. If I was at 20% on white, for example, then I would be 20% red, 20% green. Um,
Nah.
that doesn't matter.
No.
That's what you're
No,
saying.
that
Okay.
doesn't it doesn't translate. You just turn it up to what your eye is good. You have to accept that when you're turning up white though, you're adding either 440 or 450 nanometer. So you're going to get more blue when you add in those whites. So
Right.
you just have to be careful um,
Intensity.
with par at that point. And then the challenge you may have if you're switching lights, the spectrums aren't the same, so the corals are going to feel those lights differently.
Hmm.
So if you're going to change a light and you don't necessarily know the spectrum, or you haven't asked somebody like me that has a spectrometer, then you set par even and drop your new light 20% and then start working your way up over a month because you don't know what that different spectrum is going to do to that coral. If the spectrum is more complete, fuller, lots more blues, lots more violets, all the way down below 400 nanometer
Hmm.
into UV, then it could hurt the coral because the coral's not used to all of that, right? It's like going to get some chicken nuggets versus a big old 5-course meal. So you got to
Gotcha.
pace yourself. So just turn down the portions on that 5-course to get you where you need to be.
And that
So
makes sense. And it's good to know because the data, right? I mean, again, it's back to that word. That's the data, and that's the important part because um, it doesn't lie. I mean, that's the most beautiful
i-
thing.
if you're going from a Red Sea light with an incredibly narrow blue spike at 450 nanometer to something like the Reef or the Quanta or the Nicrew, that's very different par. Your par numbers are going to be equal, but that's very different. There's a whole lot more behind that par from those other lights than say a Red Sea.
Okay, so so where do you feel the majority of the punch is coming from? Do you think it's from the white
Oh,
channel, or do you think it's from the blues?
oh, it's the blues. By punch you mean
Like
par?
the par intensity, yeah, par intensity.
It's I would say the blues, but the whites are also providing blues. Behind
Right.
that, behind that that hump of whites that it gives you is this big blue spike.
Okay.
So it's both.
Now, are some of the LED manufacturers doing like more like a cool white and a warm white? I mean, is that still sort of a thing, like something in
Yeah,
the 3000K range, and then something in the 6500K range, something like that? Like,
it is a
I
thing. And I don't know if it's a marketing thing or if it's just a looks thing, but use that to your advantage, right? Make your tank look the way you want it to look. So just pin all those violets and those blues and then bring up whatever whites look best. Some might not like that warmer white because it might make it look a little yellow, right? So
Mhm.
play with the whites to make it look the way you want.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at T5s all day,
Yeah,
10K Coral Life KZ bulbs and the Fiji purple, I mean, it's very white. Most
it is
people
very white.
would
Yeah.
not like to look at my reef during the day.
That's
But
similar to a
there's
12K metal halide. That's kind of where you're rocking.
yeah, it's cool though, man. I mean, I can't believe how much the A cans can
Or
appreciate this.
14. Yeah.
They love it. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I've never really kept LPS corals, and I've always been an acro head, and man, I'm just really digging them. I'm digging the way they're puffy, and even coming off of LED when I put the T5s on, I came closer to the water with the T5s, and they loved it.
Mhm.
The only thing I noticed with the reef breeders is if one of the LPS fell under like a diode line, it would burn like maybe the edge of it or something.
Yeah.
Um, and so it kind of got me a little bit concerned about them. And then I'm like, oh, screw it, I'll put the T5s back on.
Was that a
Because
relatively low mount? Did you keep that? You kept that? That
I,
was the old reef breeders.
yeah, the Photon V2 32 Pro.
Yeah, the
Um,
Evergrows. Yep.
it's yeah, okay, yeah, that's what it is. It's an Evergrow knockoff, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it serves its purpose, but being an Acropora guy, there's things that I've noticed when I went back to T5s that I couldn't get under that lamp that I'm getting
Yep.
with T5s, and so I don't know if it's inferior from the way it's made or if it's just me. I don't really know. It doesn't matter.
No,
Um,
you're most likely getting a fatter blue bump. You're getting more back to that per thing. You're getting more per. You're getting more light in that photosynthetic range that coral dig. Corals will use all of the spectrum you give them. It doesn't, right? But they really like that per range, that 390, 400 up to 500. That big chunk of blue right there, right? But Bulk Reef Supply used to call it the biology band. It's important for coral. They like it.
That makes sense because when you think about the light, even on a high noon, um, sun hitting the reef, there's
Mhm.
going to be reflective, and however far down you go, however many meters below the surface you go, I imagine the light bends and does what it does, and it's going to have a little bit more of a blue tinge in it, I would imagine. Sort of. I mean, I see you, but you're frozen. Am I frozen? Oh, there you are. Oh, well, it's your logo. Well, I see you with a wig on right now with your. I think it's your logo. I like it too. I don't know. Here, let me hit refresh here on my end, and let's see if it brings you back. Yeah. Well, maybe it'll come back. We'll just keep talking, and hopefully it'll pop back up. Yeah. Yeah, right. Run to the bathroom. Do what you got to do. Put. Well, hopefully you have pants on. I was gonna say you
Oh,
just put a
I'm
butt.
back. Good thing I had pants on. I'm back, Barry.
Oh man, I had to do it, dude. I saw that Reef Beef episode years ago, and
Holy
man,
shit.
I was spitting. I was laughing my ass off. I was like, man, this is some really good shit. And I think you made an appearance on Reef Bum at one point. Maybe I
Yeah.
don't know.
I've been on Reef Bum like 3 or 4 times. Same
Yeah,
for Reef Beef.
yeah, I thought I'd seen you there. Um, but yeah,
Keith's
it's
hilarious.
yeah, I haven't
Actually,
had
I
an
mean, Keith's a
opportunity to
good
interact.
one, right? He's a good halide to LED convert. I mean, I think he's just about to the point where he's full LED. Because back to Sanjay's point, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I
People
mean,
want to believe it matters, but
the only
doesn't
thing
matter.
I was ever wondering about was the photosynthetic energy that's created, um, that seems to do something to excite acros. I don't know if it's true or not. It's just
Mm.
anecdotal. Maybe something with the energy, the photosynthetic energy that's being created from a halide or T5s. I don't know if there's something there that maybe with more T5 or LED diodes that creates the same effect. I don't know, but it's something that's been brought up before. So if you have
Yeah.
anything to offer there, that'd be great.
I think it just sucks that you got to put so many LEDs over top of a tank. So I think the challenge is at the root of it, it might just be cost because it's easier, it's less expensive, not to run, but to light. Like it's a big old T5 fixture is pretty inexpensive when it comes down to it, right? And you put that damn thing on almost on the water, and then you have right because you got to put those things low T5s, and
I
that's
mean,
difficult to replicate with LEDs. Now, if you go look at Keith, if you go look at Reef Bum's Peninsula, dude he's got just this whole bunch of Mitras, a whole bunch of GHL over the top. He's got plenty of LEDs over that tank, so it's effectively giving you the same thing you have with your T5, just a big ass blanket of light. And I think that's the key. LEDs and the expense of LEDs, I think that's the limb factor, right? I mean, that's the limiting factor that's keeping people from lighting tanks in a way where they'll be a little more successful, I think.
well, I also believe too, like they're the marketplaces, like this is things that I try to talk to people too about. Like, go to your Facebook marketplace. There's used equipment that you can find,
Mm,
as well. There's tanks, there's all sorts of things. So, you know, it shouldn't be that so far out of reach that more people can't be doing this and enjoying
yeah,
this,
agreed.
and that's
And
kind of.
these budget fixtures, right, that will absolutely perform just as well as the quote unquote best. I mean, budget pictures or fixtures need to be considered for people who, for actually for anybody. It's not even people on a budget. Like if my GHL lights break, I'm absolutely putting night crews over my tank because they're cheap and they really work well. So
And I liked what you had
whatever.
said about you had made a comment or made a post about, I think in that one that I had originally, decided I'm reaching out to this guy because I really love what he's saying here. But you had made mention over um, you had made mention of, oh God, what was it that you had said? Gosh, I'm blanking out here. I do this every once in a while. You you were
Welcome to Gen X.
I know, man, like too many years of partying. But
It sucks.
yeah, yeah, it's just back to um the sort of the budget um lights. And gosh, I was gonna say something. It'll come back to me, Jim. We'll
It'll
just have
come
to
to you.
fast forward. I'm having one of those brain fart moments right now. And it's probably because the coffee wore off, I think.
Uh-oh. That's sad.
Afternoon coffee.
Um, you had mentioned uh bottled bacteria.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
let's go
and that's
there.
like that's like talking about somebody's mom. But uh
Not to me, it's not, man.
I mean, so are lights, but whatever. Did you have a question about bottled bacteria?
No, no, no. I've played around with almost all of them, just so you know, for
Mm,
what it's worth. I
mhm.
know what I feel works and is effective, but when it all boils down to through gardening, is realizing most of these are probably just lactobacillus. I
Tell
don't
me
know
what you
that.
think worked. I wanna hear that.
So I really do like KZ,
Mhm.
Zeobac, but I only like it for one purpose, only one: post clean.
What's that?
I do a
Hmm.
calcium carbonate flocculent snow, and I hit it with
Mhm.
a couple drops of Zeobac. And if I've scrubbed on the reef, or if I've done a water change or clean power
Mm,
heads, I like to broadcast that to cover those surfaces. Now, whether or not it's effective, it's doing it, it
mm-mm.
seems like it is, but I don't know that for a fact. Again,
Yeah,
I've
it's
never
making you
tested the
feel good.
bottle. Yeah, okay, so it's
Uh,
feel good bacteria.
so if you go to Humble Fish, and I tested it, and
Okay.
you may throw your bottle out, but that's up to you to decide.
Right, at whatever, a pop? Yeah. No, it's old. I only use 2 drops of every couple of weeks, when I make a snow. But, yeah, I mean,
Mine
so
had
I thought
staph
of
in
it
it.
as a nitrifying bacteria, but I don't know that for sure.
Mine had staph in it. Here we go. See, this is the fun of testing bottle bacteria.
I can tell you this, my late fiancée took a dropper full of Aquaforus Probio-S thinking she was dosing CBD, and she didn't get sick. So,
No,
um,
it's bacillus.
it does smell like you're about ready to make sourdough bread. That's the vibe I get. I smell the bottle, and I all of a sudden, just it screams yeast. It screams
What
it.
what I would suggest, and in all fairness, it's not necessarily a live bacteria. The DNA of very specific bacteria have been found in these bottles. And then you decide, and it is feel good, right? I mean, I have absolutely been in the feel good bottle bacteria camp where I was like, I feel like I'm doing something, and I don't care if it's working because that's just what I'm going to do. I was doing that with Tim's Eco Balance until I sent that off, and I found serratia in it, right? So maybe the red bacteria that's growing in your shower if you don't clean your shower enough. I
Oh,
found that in there, right? So then all of this is on Humblefish. You can see all the data.
all right. Yeah, I'm going there after
S-
this.
So I so I'll send you a link.
Okay, cool.
I hit up Tim and I was like, "Hey, I found this in your bottle." And then I thought it's something that I did. Like I thought I had contaminated my bottle. So then I bought another one and it had the same thing. Can you go look? And over the next 9 months or so, because it took them a while for him to go out and look, they did confirm that they found some in a bottle, right? Whoever's manufacturing this stuff for them, uh, it was there. But they had since worked through that stock and now it's no longer there. But that's also the same three bacillus species that are in MB7. So there's really no difference between MB7, um, Brightwell's MB7, and Dr. Tim's Eco Balance. It's kind of the same stuff.
So, what bacteria do you? Okay, do you? notables? Do you have notables, or did you just chalk like everything that you basically tested? You just now look at it with through a different lens.
I have bad notables in several products, things I don't necessarily want to. They're absolutely not going to hurt me, but they could. Like if I was immunocompromised, there's an opportunity for some of these things. And this isn't scary story. Like I'm not trying to freak people out over bottle bacteria or whatever. Just be careful. Uh, there's things in there I don't, and it may not be alive. There's my disclaimer. And it may have just been in my bottle. There's another disclaimer because I got a letter from a company once. They're like, "Don't talk about our bacteria." I was like, here's my reply." So actually, that was the genesis of me starting an LLC because I was like, "Well, I'm allowed to say what I found in this product, like legally. Like there's statutes that allow me to do this." So
Unbelievable.
um, there's product that I have tested that isn't the product they say it is. Like the product that they said was in the bottle isn't. And then when I found that, I provided it to the manufacturer, and the manufacturer's like, "Well, that's not possible." And then I get a letter, and I was like, "Okay." So I bought 2 more bottles. And then I worked with my scientists and microbiology colleagues to make sure that I'm doing this exactly the right way and sending out samples, and that stuff's not in the bottle. Like this very tiny bit was in one, but the other 2 bottles didn't have any. So, and then through for whatever reason, that product was pulled from the shelves not long after that. I don't think that was my doing. I have some insight as to why it was pulled, but now it's back, so I got to test it again. I and I don't think these bacteria survive in your tank. I don't think you're dumping 3 bacillus species in your aquarium and they're surviving. I think I think they're lysing. I think they're exploding. Or the salt, the difference between, right, their guts and the salt water is essentially pulling the guts out of the bacteria, and the response you may see in your tank, whether you care or not, is the constituents of that bacteria feeding your tank. So it's not the bacteria colonizing directly, it's the guts of the bacteria essentially feeding your tank. So, like, why do I need the bacteria if that's really
Yeah,
all
and
it
just
is?
feed coral food instead.
Yeah, why do I feed coral food and why do I how about I maintain through water changes and whatever means a very sound microbiome, which I can test through aquabiomics.
So okay, so you worked your way through many of the different bacterias. I've always felt there's one that I've had good success with that's a dry, that is fauna marin,
Mhm.
rebiotic. Again, I'm going to let you tell
Got
me.
got data.
Okay, good. And then the other one, I'm going to mention it. And the other one is the ampules, glass tubes that you have to break open. Biodigest from
Yeah, it's
Protobio.
Biodigest. Yeah, Biodigest was pretty diverse. I don't know if it's alive, but I
Okay.
know the DNA was it was relative, it was more diverse than most, and it had aquatic species. It had species that you may find in the ocean.
And then I'm going to assume the others are probably all yeast driven. Probably.
Not yeast, right? Isn't that a fungus? Isn't yeast
Oh,
ultimately really a fungus? But
yeah.
bacillus, right?
Okay. So the lactobacillus, which is easy to
Mhm.
make. I mean, like you can make your own
Yes.
cultures. I mean,
You
shit, I
said
could just take kombucha and put it in my damn tank for God's sakes.
I pour a little me, I pour a little there. If you wanted to see, yeah, the data's there. If you go to Humblefish, if you search Telegram Humblefish bacteria, you'll probably land on the main page, and then all the others, to include testing that's been performed by others.
Oh,
It's all
wow.
there.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
And I got more to do, right? I have this bottle here, which is the new bottle of a product, and I have several samples in my freezer ready to go. To
So,
include some purple non-sulfur bacteria that I
yeah,
grew
that's
myself,
where I
just to
was going to
see.
go next is the PNS.
I don't think it lives in your tank. So
Yeah.
I did a study with 35 ppt PNSB, um, and I swabbed plates and I incubated, and it looks like they didn't survive. Now, again, who cares if you're feeding your tank? And if first, who cares if it makes you feel good?
Hmm.
Who cares if it's feeding your tank by the little bacteria cells exploding, for lack of a better way of explaining it, and then the guts of those bacteria feeding your tank? That's okay. Um, I'm also not a microbiologist, so if what I'm saying is wrong, that's cool. But I work with some, and they kind of agree.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, gardening wise, I have a worm farm. All right, and all the biology that I need for any of my plants, I get plenty of it through what passes through the gut of the worm. Right,
Yeah,
so in terms of biology, I don't even, I've changed even my mindset on that. I'm not like I said, I used to be in my mind, I used to think, oh, well, it's zeolite, it's aquifers, it's good stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
and just parroting purple marketing and look, man, I'm kind of with it as far as that goes, but I do like getting your insight on the bacteria because this is something I've talked about on the channel. And so if I need to go back and make corrections or I need to rethink my communication and my lines of communication on what I'm saying to the community, I really want to make sure that I'm speaking a little bit more clearly. Now, I always preface it that this is what I do, and this is the product that I've landed on, and this is what I
yep,
choose to do. So by no
yep,
means am I trying to kind of push my methodology, if you will, onto anybody. But there is something to be said about the data. We're back to that again.
yeah.
And
Yours, yeah. Zeobac was 60. So all relative abundance, 64% steno. And if you look up steno, maybe you don't want to play with that. And then it was 1.3% staff.
geez, man, I mean, can you?
But I'll preface that with that was my bottle.
No, I get it. I mean, I get it. We don't want any more. We don't want a cease and desist letter showing up, for God's
It's
sakes.
okay. I'm comfortable with them now
Yeah. I like
because
your
I have the
skin.
data, right?
Your skin's thick. I like it. Yeah, I mean, but that's dangerous shit, man. Like, and then
Can
then
be.
you got the opposite side of the spectrum. You've got people that are putting antibacterial things all up in their shit too, and so then you've got the equal to the opposite going on as well. So I don't know where you stand on that, but I'm more of a naturalist. So to me, it screams like no. No, once you go there, there's no turning back. Like that's how I look at it. I think of
Yeah.
um, I haven't had in my body, I haven't had an antibiotic since I was 18 years old. I'm
Mm.
54 now.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not trying to brag on that. What I'm trying to
Yep.
say is I'm glad for whatever reason that I didn't like taking pills, that I didn't like shots, and I'm glad I just kind of that's the course I took, man. Like that's
I
all I'm going to
gotcha.
say with that. But there's danger in it, and like
There
Cipro,
can be
for
if
example.
misused, right? Yeah, Cipro. I'm um I'm pro and con Cipro at the same time.
I think if it's used correctly, right? If you're operating your mentality,
Yeah.
you know what you're doing. And you're not taking it cautiously. It's like using bare
Mhm.
barehanded. Like okay, well it
Yeah,
might
no.
work, but do you really want to put your hands in that? I
Yeah,
mean,
no, you don't.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
So I like I don't want to misuse Cipro. If I have corals, and I haven't had this in a long time, but if I have corals that are STNing, and I do what I can, and I'm watching and I'm watching and I'm watching, and it's not stopping, I'll pull that coral out of the tank and I'll throw it in a bag. And Dong may Dong, who's on with Keith.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's awesome. That guy.
Dong's gonna disagree, but I'll do this dance with Dong all day long. But if you put Cipro in a bag, and you float your ailing coral in that bag in some dark place, like I have a 100 liter in my garage that's heated, and that's where my water change water comes from. And I just stick it in a bag and leave it in there for a day or two, and I pull it out and I rinse it in salt water from the tank, not in the tank itself. And I put that coral back. The SDN stops. Period. It doesn't die anymore. And I've repeated this multiple times, and I've been successful every time. Like 100% of my time, that works. I don't recommend that, but I just know that it works for me. Like you may be able to be successful in the same way with oxalinic acid. I just haven't tried it yet.
Hmm.
So if we instead of going broad spectrum, if we can narrow that spectrum a little bit and use OA, then maybe that's a better way to go. I just know what has worked for me, and I still have Cipro.
Well, I'll share with you what to me personally. I've had many people over the years ask me about coloration. Like, how do you
Hmm.
get your colors? Because that's kind of one thing that I've really been trying to do my whole entire time being in Acropora is like coloring coral, making them as colorful as possible. Right. That was my gig for many years. Not necessarily anymore. But when I look back and I rethink this, and then my message has been clear the whole time. It's what you feed the fish.
Yeah.
And so I've used frozen food. I've never used, and I'm not going to say anything negative on processed foods, right? But I've used LRS for many, 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 many years. Reef
Hmm.
Frenzy, Dinkins, things of this nature, and I feed exclusively frozen. And since I've been doing that, I'm wondering, because we talk about bacteria, I'm wondering, you know, I know that the gut biome of the fish probably is more bacteria, more than needed for the aquarium itself, for the ecosystem itself. So it's why when we kind of bring up the bacteria thing, what is your thought on that? What is your thought on the fish and the live rock or the live sand and the live specimens? Do we
Oh
really
yeah.
need any bacteria, or we get plenty of bacteria? Because I would be
Uh,
curious to know.
yeah, I'm a firm believer of starting a tank with live rock. It doesn't necessarily have to be live rock from an ocean. It can be live rock from a friend. It can be live media, sand, water, what have you, from somebody with an established reef that you can go see. Like in my case, when I started my 100 gallon, it was water and sand from Inappropriate Reefer from Moki, and it was rock from Lynn Reef Nerd, who's a local here, who's been out of
Mhm.
the hobby for a little bit,
Oh,
and
that's
then
too bad.
rock that I maintained in a tub while we were renovating the basement. So I didn't need, and I know you mentioned it earlier, but I had an instant cycle. Like I put that stuff in my tank, and then the next day I moved everything out of the tub and I dropped it in, and I don't think I lost anything from that tub transfer because the tank had everything that it needed because I just brought it with. It was I didn't get any uglies. I had an instant supportive microbiome because I didn't. I know I didn't because I tested. That took a while to develop, but I was able to support life on day one.
Mhm. Yeah, me
Not an
too.
ideal situation, right? You don't wanna do that if you don't have to. I kinda had to, and it worked. Maybe I was just lucky. If I'm starting a tank, kinda to your point, right? Back to the way I did that 20 gallon, I'm gonna roll in with live rock, sand, media, whatever, or water from established tanks. I would maybe entertain getting wild stuff and throwing it in there, or maybe if Eli has some of his tested rubble, I would go that direction too because I know that's going to be clean. And then I'd give it 2 months, and I just let it. I'd set the lights to acclimate over that 2 months, and I may run with nothing in there. I may run with coral in there. I may just let it go until the lights come on, and then maybe put some coral in there, which will help. But I just let it go. I just give it time. You don't have to go right away unless you have to.
Yeah, I mean, I did the same thing, but like algae, like I look at algae through a different lens than I used to look through it. I used to look at it and it's got to be gone. I got to fight it. What do I got to do? I got to get now I look at it and it's symbiotic. I'm looking
Hmm.
past colorful corals and I'm seeing algae.
Yeah.
So they both are wanting the same shit, man. And
They
I
are.
know that eventually there's going to be one is going to leverage itself over the other. It's a slow
Yeah.
game. And that's the game I'm playing. And that's why to me, I don't care about algae. I don't care. I'm looking right past it because like a weed, we look at weeds as bad things. What we don't realize is the weed is signaling that something is off in the soil and there's a
Hmm.
reason why the weed is growing. And if we just pay attention to the reason why the weed is there, then maybe the weed won't be there, right? And
Yeah.
and
Okay.
so and then perhaps maybe what we consider a weed is actually food. We never know,
Yeah.
right? I mean, in many
Yeah.
cases it is. But
Well, it's
the
food for
weed,
my tanks. I can tell you that. Or you throw a herbivore in there, and you don't have any more algae problems, right?
100%. Yeah,
Hmm.
100%. But I mean, I've kind of taken this approach just like gardening where I don't fight weeds in my food forest, man. I until I'm ready to plant something, there's no competition.
Yeah.
There is no competition. In fact, they're doing a benefit by having the roots and having actively growing in that space versus nothing and just plain mulch. So, now when I'm ready to plant there, now I'm going to dig up the weeds, right? And then I'm going to put a mulch layer or, compost and put a mulch layer down. It's going to
Yeah.
smother
Yeah.
whatever weeds are there. And ultimately,
Yep.
what I want to be there is going to blossom. And so when I think of it like coral, I look at it and I go, okay, well, they're both doing seemingly well right now. So why am I going to go put something in the tank that's going to kill the algae? Likely
Hmm. Don't do it.
it's going to kill the coral because they both
Absolutely.
seem to be operating on the same wavelength and their demands are both quite similar. So instead, I take more of a let me knock it down, throw that
Yeah.
calcium carbonate spiked zeobac snow, which now is just going to be calcium carbonate. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm throwing this shit out because I'm not going to cut my finger or, do something like that. And then, look, man, I
Take a look
mean,
at the data first, and then decide on your own.
yeah, no, I know. I'm just being facetious when I say that. I'm not going to necessarily do that, but no, it does. I am going to take a harder look at what I'm putting in the tank, and I may just throttle back to where I was 3 or 4 months ago, where there was nothing going
Yeah.
into the tank, not even
Yep.
bacteria.
Yeah. I wouldn't put anything in the tank to kill algae. I may attack bryopsis if it happens to show up. I don't have any, so that's cool because that's difficult to get rid of. But if it's just green hair algae, I mean that's an herbivore for me. I'm not going to do anything other than make sure the tangs are chowing on it. I mean, I got a hippo tang that'll eat bubble algae, so I'm kind of
Oh, you're loving
I'm I'm
it.
I'm lucky that way.
Yeah, see, I don't
But
I have a nano, so I'm not, I have to
mhm,
utilize like cleanup crew type scenario and then
yep,
elbow grease. So I just do
yeah,
the old I take the rock outside and I take a brush and it's out in the sunlight, corals are loving it, getting some high tide or low tide situation. And then I
yeah,
just put the rock right back in the tank and then before I would hit it with like a snow and thinking that I'm broadcasting this bacteria. I mean, it made me feel good. So maybe through the virtue of me feeling good, maybe the tank just decided to come along for the ride.
Kelly's hero, positive waves, man, positive waves.
It very well could be. I don't look past these kind of things anymore.
Yeah,
I tend to believe that the earth is speaking to us many times. We're just not listening. But
Back to the listening. Back to the listening, right?
if we just listen and we just observe, and then we just let the data steer us, right?
Yep.
Because I mean, hey, I got to tell you, I mean, I'm gonna go pull the thread when I get off this live, and then I'm gonna look and read for myself. I'm gonna look at the data, and then where my ego is at in life. I can easily just say, yeah, I've done this forever, but you know what? It's time to let go, man. Let
Mhm.
go. And I don't have
The
a
data's
problem with that
helpful.
at all. And the data is helpful to help me let go, right? And because now it's an emotional relationship, right? This is no longer based on
She
data. This is now based on
have it.
emotion.
Yeah.
And maybe some of
Yep.
the problems that we are running into out in the internet world, maybe some of that is rooted in the same level of emotion. I don't
Oh,
know.
you think?
I'm being
Some of
kind.
the passion runs really deep, don't it?
I'm being kind. But no, man. So Jim, I tell you what, I know you have a family, you have a wife who's probably ready to see her husband, and you've got fish that probably want to be fed. So I know you're probably ready to get going. But dude, I so would love to continue to do this routinely with you if you're willing
Yeah,
to
man.
do it.
Happy
The
to. Yep.
crowd absolutely is loving what's going on. I'm loving what's going on, but I know all good things must come to an end. And so, yeah, you know, um, maybe we should wrap it up and then just do a part two, and maybe
Cool.
once, a quarter month, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever schedule permits. Maybe we can just keep having these updates and see where we are, and like update where the community is, where is the hobby, relevant to the economy and all of these things, because a lot of this insight that you're bringing and that I'm trying to bring forward, it's very very similar in ways, and while
Yeah.
it's different, and yours is rooted in one and mine's rooted in another, I think it's on the same path, and I can appreciate that. So more so ever, I appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate you, man. I dig this. I dig your approach. I think it's much needed in the hobby. You got it.
All right, Jim. So we're gonna do a catch up. I will. You have all my information in the
Yes, sir. I'll
IG
share.
message
Yep.
box. Dude, if you want to get on the phone anytime, text,
Yeah,
whatever you
man.
want to shoot the shit, I am always here, brother. I don't have shit going on. So I
I'm
like,
coming down to see the garden. Once I pull the plug on that work business, we're gonna
yeah,
jump in the RV and come see some people.
man. Oh, that would be awesome, dude. You're welcome to come by anytime, brother.
Thanks,
Anytime, man. Mi casa su casa, bro.
Roger. Thank you so much.
Thank
Same.
you, Jim. Much
Yes,
appreciated
sir.
for your
Thank
time,
you.
bro. Appreciate you, man. Take care, everybody.
Always.
Thank you for joining in.